Yeah, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Prison Break Raw. I'm your host, the one and only Big JD. Go ahead, give this channel, subscribe, share, at least some messages or comments, hit the thumbs up for the like, notification bell to be informed on all episodes when they drop. Most importantly, if you enjoy this content, please feel free to share it. Sharing is caring. Share it to your family, your friends, your coworkers, anywhere and everywhere in your social media platforms. Let's get this raw and uncut material out there to the millions that don't know we are here. Well, let's go ahead and talk about this. The footage that I dropped, the videos from yesterday regarding what went on in the city that I currently reside in. Although I am not a native of Oklahoma or Oklahoma City, I do live here, been living here for almost 4 years now, and it is my home. And from what I'm told, there has never been such a protest or riot of its kind like the one that occurred over last weekend that happened in this city. Started on Saturday night with a peaceful protest that turned bad. Of course, turned into a riot, turned into a little bit of looting and some destroying of property, just like it's been happening anywhere else around the country, only it was pretty lightweight compared to like Los Angeles or Minneapolis or many other places in the country. Like I had Dallas. There weren't no piles of bricks everywhere like Dallas, but people still figured out how to destroy things, and we'll be talking about all that, and you'll get my thoughts on it. It's like I said, I did not participate in any of this. I live very close to downtown. I practically live in downtown Oklahoma City. And when I heard all the helicopters and all the commotion and police sirens and everything like that, I was wondering what the hell was going on. I knew it had something to do with what was going on in the rest of the country, so I decided to get in my car and drive down there. The minute I saw what looked to be like smoke, and I felt it in my eyes and I couldn't breathe, I knew right away it was tear gas. I got triggered, actually, because it reminded me of a prison riot. Same kind of tear gas. And I knew the shit was real, but I didn't want to get close to where all the police sirens and all the police activity was, so I stayed on the outskirts of it. Like I said, man, I'm not involved in any of it. I'm not one to protest or to riot or to loot or anything like that. In order for me to get a better understanding of what's going on around me in my world, I have to stay completely detached from all these things and be independent. A lot of people don't understand how I can do that, but it's quite easy for me. Very easy. When you've been in prison and you know that both sides of the political aisle give zero shits about you, it's very easy to take your side on the independent line. It's very easy to spot the hypocrisy and the bullshit on both sides. And we're going to get into all that right here in this video. So let's go ahead and get into that right now. Let's get into that shit right now. So, how do I feel about the rioting and the looting and all that stuff? I think it's absolutely pointless. And there's no excuse for it, and there's no explanation for it or anything like that of its nature. How about peaceful protest? Well, since I'm a libertarian, I believe in the right to peacefully assemble and freedom of speech, and to exercise that freedom of speech in any way you see fit. And I'm all in favor for that. As far as the rioting and the looting is concerned, don't really understand how that's beneficial at all. I mean, if you're going to kick some shit off, that's probably not the way to go about it, because the only thing that these people are destroying is mom and pop businesses, stores and stuff that people work their ass off to get. People who have sweat, blood, and tears to get those businesses will probably never have them again. And I've seen some footage all across the country. One, namely in Cleveland, it looked like it was an Italian restaurant where they were strapped down and they were ready to smoke somebody that came into that business, and as they should. They should be allowed to protect their property like that, and they should be allowed to smoke anybody that destroys it. Somebody breaks their window or something like that, they should be allowed to shoot them on sight. That's just my thinking, though. But I'm a big, pro-gun guy, so stick a fork in me, hate me, I don't care, it doesn't matter. You damage my property, you come anywhere around me that's going to cause me a great deal of financial harm and grief, or harm or threaten my family, I should have the right to put a bullet in your ass. It's just as simple as that. So many like Armenian businesses I heard in the Hollywood area and stuff like that were guarding their shit with straps, and I have a lot of you who subscribe to me that were strapped down and guarding your shit, as you should. Because like I said, rioting and looting doesn't make any sense to me. Why are you going to tear your own community down, but you don't have the balls, you don't have the stones to rush up in a police station and burn it down? Only in Minneapolis was it done. But then again, I find that to be a real head scratcher, real chin scratcher. You know what I'm saying? Since they had completely evacuated that police station. But yeah, I don't see any of these looters or rioters running up into a police station. I don't see them storming the courthouse. I don't see them storming the county jail, storming the National Guard, outpost, airports, anything like that. It's all just mom and pop businesses of people that they think are not going to fight back or have no ability to fight back. And to me, that's just cowardice and that's bully ass shit. And I don't agree with it. It's not any kind of a protest that's going to bring any justice to that man's family in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. All it's doing is more harm. So then what else do we see in the midst of all this shit? I seen, I don't know how many videos of people just running up to just random everyday white people that are out there supporting, yeah, Black Lives Matter, and I'm just running up and cracking them in the face and punching them, hitting them with 2x4s and everything like that. But then on the same breath, bitching and whining that Latin kings in the city of Chicago are defending their block and beating the shit out of them. As if that's a bad thing for some reason. It's okay to go ahead and beat up on all those neckbeard, pansy, progressive, trust fund white kids that are out there supporting you. But if Latin kings are defending Latin-owned businesses in Chicago or in other places, for some reason it's a bad thing and it's a distraction and it's divide and conquer. But it's not divide and conquer when they're beating up on white people. It doesn't make any sense to me. Because there are hundreds of thousands of white people that are out there side by side with many African Americans demanding justice in a situation like this. And although I can't say that I understand what it feels like to be African American in this country, because I can't. You know, I'd be lying to you if I said I understand what it's like. And I feel the pain in a lot of ways, and I see a lot of the abuse and a lot of the bullshit that they go through. Per capita, now remember, the per capita model is like 1 out of every 100, 1 out of every 10. It's not an actual, like, raw figure. But per capita, it would appear that African-American men are more likely to get shot and stopped and harassed by the police than anybody else. But if you actually take the actual numbers of police-related shootings by race, hands down, white people got everybody beat. Because there's more white people in this country. Let's just be real about that. And I've finally seen the studies, so I'm able to speak on that. So hands down, actual numbers, not per capita, because per capita is not an actual number, it's just a percentage. But per capita, I mean, actual numbers, more whites are killed by the cops than anybody else. So make sense of that if you can. Don't make sense of it if you choose not to. But in the grand scheme of it all, everybody is affected by the God complex that occurs within the ranks of many different police departments, law enforcement agencies, sheriff's departments, whatever it may be. Give somebody a little bit of power and they will abuse it. And anybody that is outside of their fold, their clan, their blue shield, you're just shit. You're trash. You're a peasant. And you're subjected to be murdered, harassed, picked on, whatever it is necessary or whatever it is they feel they can do. They feel that they can't be stopped. And in a lot of these cases where, let's say, whites are killed by the police or Hispanics are killed by the police or something else is killed by the police, they feel like more emboldened, more empowered when they do that. I'm going to tell you why. Because they know nobody is going to rise up and protest for those people. And it's true. I mean, it's obvious that whenever it happens, you don't see people burning down stores. You don't see people mass protesting, hands up, don't shoot, and all that stuff. I can't breathe. I actually watched a white dude in the county jail screaming that he couldn't breathe when that same exact knee on the neck and on the back was being placed on him, and we all watched him die. So that word didn't get out to the streets, and there wasn't no mass protest for that gentleman right there. So does this matter? Does it really make any sense to any of you? Do you want it to make sense? Let me help you see why all of this matters. It matters because we all live here together. We all live in this country together. It doesn't matter if you're African American and I'm European American and they're Hispanic and this and that and these people are Asian and whatnot. if anybody gets the least amount of abuse from the police, it's probably the Asian community, because they randomly, rarely ever do they get stopped or pulled over or anything like that. So how do we make sense of all of this? How do we come to understand it? What do we do in order to, like, ease the suffering and try to come to an objective, realistic, common ground for all of us here? Do we entertain people in Black Lives Matter going around telling people to get on your knees and apologize for your white privilege? Because I got to tell you, I've seen a couple of those videos too, and try that shit with me. That's all I'm saying, is try that shit with me. You're not going to get nowhere with your cause by doing that shit to me, because it's a hard sell to sell white privilege to me, because I've been harassed by the police many times. I've been beaten by them. I've had evidence planted on me. I've been in the system. I currently live in one of the roughest neighborhoods in Oklahoma City. I grew up rough. I grew up with nothing. There's never been a red carpet rolled out at my feet if we're just talking about simple semantics or optics as far as your skin is concerned. Well, hey, you know what? You could shed it off of my body and you can have it if you think it'll do you any better, but it hasn't done me any good. So we could just go ahead. That's where I feel about that. But on the other side of the whole thing, I'm willing to listen to what African Americans in this country are saying, their grievances. You know, what is it about? What is it that I can do? What kind of a solution can I provide for you to help you pursue more equal liberty and happiness in this country? Because it would appear that the doom and gloom for a lot of people would have you believe that you could never achieve anything as an African American in this person. I got to tell you that two of the most rich, powerful billionaires in this country is Oprah Winfrey, who's an African American woman, and Nick Cannon's family, among many others. So it's really also, once again, it's really hard to sell this talking point that you can't make it in this country if you're African American, because I know that's bullshit. I mean, come on now. Anybody can make it in this country if they put forth the effort. Yeah, you may get stopped by the police. Yeah, you may get harassed by the police, but that beef you have with law enforcement has nothing to do with me or anybody like me. That beef is solely with your elected officials, your chief of police that you put into there, your sheriff that you elected, your governors, your attorney generals and all that. In Minnesota specifically, it's a hardcore Democratic state. Your governor there is Democratic. Your mayor is a Democrat. Your chief of police is African American. Your attorney general is African American. And your senator that was running for president, Amy Slobbernobber or Clobberknobber or fucking whatever the fuck her name is a Democrat who is constantly reminding everybody else of how racist they are, but yet she is repeatedly covered and defended police brutality in her city. On at least 2 occasions, sticking up for Derek Chauvin, of which is a Democrat, by the way. And in case if you're wondering how I got the information about him being a Democrat, actually somebody, a reliable source coming out of Minneapolis, who was law enforcement, had actually reached out to me. He's watched my channel. Told me all about Eric Chauvin. Yeah, he's a Democrat. Far as away from a white supremacist as you can think, but yet he does have a lot of serious anger issues. And he has had a lot of problems in the past as far as psychological problems and whatnot. So here's the thing. How I believe that people that are African American can address a lot of these grievances that they're being faced with is take a look around you, wherever it is that you're from. If you're in Illinois, Chicago, for example, your mayor is an African American woman, a gay woman at that, who is a socialist, borderline communist. Your mayor of Chicago, the governor of that state, many of the senators and everybody that's in power are all Democrats there. So why is it that they haven't fixed these problems in that community and that police department a long time ago? Why haven't they addressed this? They have the power. So the biggest talking point with racism and white supremacy is white supremacists and white racists have the power. Yet in the city of Chicago alone, white supremacists and white people have no political power because everybody that's at the top is of another race. Minnesota, a lot more white people running things up there, but however, it's a very democratic state, so white supremacists have no power in that state either. Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, all Democrats. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento, all these places, Democratic controlled. Plenty of people of color in the government in those towns. Those are the people you need to be pushing your grievances towards. Not some average, everyday freaking John O'Malley that's living paycheck to paycheck just to keep the roof up over his manufactured home and feed his family. Those people have no privilege and power, okay? So we can go ahead and kill that myth, that white privilege myth, because white privilege is for the real white people of this country. Everybody I just named, everybody in political power, the oligarchs, the celebrity elite power structure, and all those people that are at the top that are of all colors, those are the white people you need to be checking privilege on. You need to be telling them to apologize for their privilege. You need to tell them to step down and come back to eye level with the people and do what they were elected to do. But that'll never happen. To attack some random person on the street and to burn down mom and pop's businesses and to get upset when the Latin kings are beating people up because they don't want people to burn down the businesses that people in their community own, you can't get mad at that. You can't get upset about that because that right there makes no sense to anybody in this country. It doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to many people. Okay, same thing in like Dallas and other places. I don't see anybody attacking police stations. I don't see anybody attacking courthouses. I don't see anybody running and martyring themselves like the ancient Christians in Rome and just jump the fence at the White House and just set themselves on fire on the Rose Garden lawn. I don't see that happening. So it would lead me to believe that a lot of this is just a bunch of bullshit and pandering and a lot of mass media flame fanning in order to stir up a lot of dissension and stir up a lot of division and completely tear this whole country down. You've got one bad actor in all of it, and that's George Soros. A lot of people know who George Soros is, but guess what? George Soros has said not so many friendly things about African Americans. In his opinion, he says we could do anything in our power to make you hate white people, and that's their whole goal. So he funds Antifa and he funds white supremacists at the same time. He funds both of them. And sometimes a lot of people that are supposed to be Antifa are really just nothing. Because there's a lot of footage out there of members of Antifa calling black cops the N-word. Doesn't really sound like an anti-fascist to me. So there's a lot of funny business going on in all of this right here. And it's really hard to take anything serious that is currently out there on the table because to me, all I see is a lot of opportunism, a lot of people with a lot of misguided and misdirected anger towards a bunch of people and a bunch of businesses that are not their enemies. Like me, I am not your enemy. I'm willing to listen to what you are going through and try to do my best to support you, but I have no power, okay? So you can't call me a white supremacist. You can't call me a racist. You can't say I have white privilege because I have no power whatsoever. I have no power. As a matter of fact, I have less power than many of you. A lot of you can bear arms if you're not a felon. I can't. I'm a 13th Amendment slave. I will never be allowed to bear arms again. I could never run for president. I can't be a doctor. I can't even be an X-ray tech in this country. I can't get federally bonded. I can't practice law. I can't do any of that stuff in the federal level because I'm a convicted felon. I'm a 13th Amendment slave. So in a lot of cases, to tell me that I have all this power, I have none. And for you to say, well, you did that to yourself, you broke the law. Well, guess what? 95% of everybody that's in prison, no matter what color they are, put themselves in prison the same way I put myself in prison. So that argument right there really holds no weight for me either, and it doesn't really get you anywhere in itself also. Finally, I want to touch on a very interesting point to all of this, something that really kind of pissed me off in all this shit that happened here in Oklahoma City, and that was the footage that I showed you at the end of yesterday's video, Dress for Success, Oklahoma. Let me tell you a little bit about that business, Dress for Success. It's not actually a business, it's a nonprofit organization. The person that had donated that building to those people, basically, they don't pay any rent for it. They don't pay any property tax for it or anything like that. Everything that runs that building is paid for or is exempt because it's a nonprofit organization. All the clothes that are in Dress for Success, of which are all burnt to a crisp now, those clothes are used for women, battered women, women getting out of jail, women getting off the streets so they can go out and find work, so they can have decent clothes to, go to school, hunt for jobs, deal with court cases and things like that. It's a nonprofit organization that helps poor people. It was the only building outside of a squad car that was burnt down. It was the only building that was burnt down. The only other thing that was burnt down, like I said, was a squad car and a couple of trash cans. So shame on you, whoever burnt down Dress for Success, because it's an organization that helps many people of color overcome a lot of the adversities that they face from either coming out of prison, incarceration, coming out of a bad marriage, or living off of the streets. So shame on whoever burnt that building down. It's crazy. For me to be, I used to drive past that place all the time. I've actually delivered donation clothes to that place on a number of occasions, and to see it torched, I can't even begin to tell you how that made me feel. Because I'm a big believer in giving back to the community and volunteering, and I've offered to volunteer my services at that place like I do many other places before. Another one that was really kind of heartbreaking for me to see was the Family Dollar that I showed you. The Family Dollar was looted. I think it was actually the only store in the whole city that was looted. They broke all the windows out and they looted the store. Guess what? That Family Dollar is located in a very low-income community, a very low-income neighborhood. The neighborhood that I live in, because I'm 2 blocks down from it. I live in a very, very low-income neighborhood. And that's where a lot of poor people shop. They looted that store, broke out the windows, and even tried to set that on fire, but it wasn't set on fire. But the store where all the neckbeard, trust fund, liberal, progressive white kids that were out there doing all that shit, by the way, the store that they shop at, the Homeland that's up the street, not a scratch. Not a scratch. Wasn't a single scratch put on the Oklahoma City Police Department building. And another one that was interesting is they were actually throwing bricks or rocks at the Oklahoma City Memorial, right? Do you know anything about the Oklahoma City Memorial? That was the building that Timothy McVeigh had bombed in the Oklahoma City bombing. It's like the Mecca, the Statue of Liberty of Oklahoma City. And they were throwing bricks and rocks at that thing where I don't know how many hundreds of children were killed in that bombing. Whoever bombed it is irrelevant. But the fact that it was bombed and those people were throwing rocks at it really just, to me, I don't really see any real solutions being met from all of this that's going on. I don't see anything getting resolved. Because remember, most of you voted these people into office. Most of you who are Democrats, Republicans, whatnot, you voted for these people. Most of these people that get into the identity politics, the politically correct politics, and you filled up a lot of these government buildings, governorships, senators, mayors of certain big cities and stuff, you filled them up with people of color and people that are women, and yet they've done nothing to change anything at all for you. They've done absolutely zero to solve your problems. You should be demanding that they solve your problems, not Billy Bob Bodine back there that's basically working his ass off just to keep the roof over his manufactured home, his trailer, to feed his family, or businesses that are in the Hispanic community over there in Chicago, or the Armenian businesses that are over there in Hollywood that Armenian people work their ass off to build. Don't get mad at them. And don't punch people randomly on the street and tell them to get on their knees and apologize for whatever privilege they got, because you are targeting the wrong people. Like I said, I could listen and I could hear you, but ultimately I have no power to help you. You have more power to help yourselves by voting all these people out that you put into office in the first place. It's as simple as that. You know, you need to, if you're going to direct any kind of political protest or civil unrest, it needs to be towards the people that actually run some things, not the people that are living here that are struggling just to make it happen. A lot of these businesses will never come back ever again. Never again. A lot of you that have rioted and protested, thought it was a good idea, you're to blame for that, not the police. If you have an issue with the police, you need to address the people that you voted into office. Your Democrats that you love so much, or your Republicans that you love so much, these progressives and socialists that you put into power in Chicago, that you put into power in Minneapolis, that you put into power in Los Angeles, that you put into power in San Francisco, you need to bring it to them and vote them out, impeach them, get rid of them, and demand that somebody step up that can actually solve these problems. But one of the biggest issues that you have to address is the God complex that law enforcement officers get. It's nothing really to do with race. It's an abuse of power that everybody else appears to be a peasant to them. That's what the God complex is. You need to start addressing that stuff. Burning these businesses down, smacking some surfer kid in Venice around on the beach is not going to help you. All you're going to do is radicalize and embolden a whole sleepy giant group of people that I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't want to see piss off because they have a lot of fucking guns. And just say, there are a lot of fucking firearms in the white community. Just saying. But you know what? Ultimately, everybody's free to do what they want when it comes to that. I will continue to be independent and try to make light of all this and try to come to figure out some kind of reason or some kind of logic that we can gain out of all this and to provide kind of like a suggestion as far as what kind of solutions. Now, these are all solutions and suggestions that I'm providing to you. What are you going to do with this knowledge? What are you going to do with this information? Because you got somebody like me who's just basically told you that I hear you, I hear your pain, or feel your pain, but I have no power to help you do anything. You need to redirect that towards the people that you voted in, your Democrats that you love so much, and in a lot of cases, your Republicans that you love so much as well. One of two things will either happen to your political ideologies in this country. Number one, you'll continue to be a sheep and a dumbass and an idiot and continue to be led by these two parties that care nothing about you. Or number two, you'll become a libertarian independent like me. But it's all up to all of yous out there. All I am is just an asshole, arrogant, sarcastic individual right here on Prison Break Raw that will give you my column, that will give you my commentary, that'll give you my opinion, and recommend some suggestions that I believe would be more beneficial to anybody's cause than what you're currently using right now. Take it or leave it is basically all I can tell you. Prison Break Raw, uncut, uncensored, no holds barred, not sugarcoated, not politically correct, all up in your face, slapping you with that dick of reality, and I'm out.